our first activity of the day, and that's just some preliminaries. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to start off our day. And before we do that, we'd like to get a word of prayer. And I'm persuaded to invite the one who is giving us preliminaries, my MD, Michael Mangeli, to please come take over as he leads us in a word of prayer also. And we carry on into the session. After that, we'll invite the moderator, Professor Raude. Karibu makofi ya Bwana Mangeli CPA, a man we've walked with this journey for many years now. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Engineer Jesse Ambundo. To our delegates, good morning. Good morning once again. For us as WASPA, we are excited to see everyone here. And one of the things we want to emphasize for all of us is, as much as time is behind the schedule, we want to make sure at least we shall catch up. We'll move fast, make sure at least we catch up the time that we've lost. Hopefully, all the members or delegates and everyone who is here, you've enjoyed your hospitality of the course. When I see some of the seats empty, I understand, I know the reason why. Watu wakija bwana wakwangi na haraka, si ukweli? But at least we want to plead with everyone to make sure at least he avails himself to come so that we can start the event of the day. Mine is also to appreciate all the delegates, all the sponsors, all our exhibitors, and everyone is here, whether local or international delegates. We really, as WASPA, we want to say thank you very much for coming for this event. Not forgetting our parent ministry in the absentia. We want also to appreciate them. They were here yesterday together with WASREB. Yesterday was their day. We gave out at least that time for that. At least we can see how we are performing as a country, as the WSP is the country. For us, it's on to welcome you for this day. Bearing in mind also is the day when we'll be having our gala dinner. And our chief guest will be Baba Mwenyewe, Sinukweli. We're in a broad-based government, and I'm happy and excited to report to all the members that we want to see everyone in that gala dinner event in the evening, where our chief guest will be Baba. So for those few remarks, I want to once again to welcome you to this event and to appreciate the presence of everyone. And at this juncture now, I would like now to hand over to our MC, who is Engineer Jesse Ambundo, to take it over from there, so that now we can also have the other preliminaries taking over from there. Thank you very much. Sorry, members that forgot I need to lead you the word of prayer. Let's pray. Can you stand up and pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you for this gift of life that you give to us. We appreciate for the day that you give to us. We commit ourselves to your hand. And all the activities that we're going to undertake here, we commit them into your hand, Jehovah God. For all those delegates on their way coming, we commit them into your hand. May you preserve, protect them on their way. And we shall give glory and honor to you, Jehovah God. We'll be looking at the end of this day, we shall return glory and honor to you for what you are planning to do, Jehovah God. We worship, exalt your name, have mercy on us, forgive our sins. If there's anything that can make you not hear our prayer, Jehovah God, we call upon your name so that we may forgive our sins. We worship and exalt your name, Jehovah God. Take all the glory and honor. In Jesus' mighty name we pray.
Asante sana. Wapi makofi ya CPA Mangeli tafadhali, our very able eminent Chair Emeritus WASPA. Karibu, all that are coming in. Ladies and gentlemen, we are moving on right now to the next session. I'd like to invite Professor Raude, please, to come and take over as the moderator. Makofi kwake tafadhali. He is moderating the morning session. He will invite the speakers and the panelists.
Yes, good morning. Welcome to this session. My name is James Meso Raude. Currently, I'm a staff of Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. We are lucky, I must say that we are very lucky to have our two speakers in the house this morning. Our first speaker is Dr. George Wainaina. George, please come over. And our second speaker is Professor Blessings, who is with us here. So, Dr. Wainaina is a group leader at IWAG, the Swiss Federation Institute of Aquatic Science and Technology, with over 7 years experience in water, sanitation, and basic service sectors. His mission is to promote impactful collaboration in the nexus of research, practice and funding for WASH and other basic services at SADC, the Department of Sanitation, Water, and Solid Waste for Development. George holds a PhD in Transitional and Innovations Management from Utrecht University and an MSc in Water Policy from the Pan-African University of Water and Energy Sciences, PAWES, in Tlemcen, Algeria. His expertise lies in applying inter- and transitional approaches to understand and facilitate systematic changes in the provision and governance of basic infrastructure. He has led and contributed to multiple research and consulting projects in Kenya, Algeria, Switzerland, and Rwanda, amongst other countries, working with international organizations, civil societies, and social enterprises. He's passionate about co-creating, disseminating, and using new knowledge for better service outcomes and social impact. Allow me to allow Dr. George to start off his presentation, and then I'll introduce and invite Professor Blessings. Thank you. George, welcome.
Thank you very much, Professor Meso. The IT team, could you please share a quick presentation? And thank you everyone for making time to join. George Wainaina. I am Kenyan despite working outside Kenya, and I have a passion for the sector in Kenya and globally in general. I always come to the water and sanitation conference every time it is advertised because I think it's an important event for the country, either to shape how we think about water and specifically also how we organize around water. A lot of times we think about water issues. We think about non-revenue water. We think about efficiency, revenue collection efficiency. We think about everything water, everything sanitation. But sometimes we don't step back to think about how about the people who organize to provide the service. In the water sector, we talk about upstream and downstream. And we know that if you don't handle the pollution at the point source in the upstream, then handling it downstream is actually treating the symptom as and not the problem. When it comes to infrastructure, I have a belief or a hypothesis that sometimes we can talk a lot about the infrastructure bit or the climate event things and all that, but if we don't talk about how we organize to provide the service, then we are at a point where we are not thinking about the upstream, but we are only thinking about the downstream. So for me, I have a special interest in the upstream in terms of how do we organize as water organization, be it a provider, be it a regulator, or otherwise, to provide water services. So that's just a brief overview. If you could please go back to the presentation, I'll quickly take you through it. And I want to introduce two things. Dynamic capabilities, and how this relates to research and capacity strengthening. And I'm going to be talking directly to the people here because most of you are managers either of a water utility, a research organization, a regulator, or something of the sort. Where do we point, AT? Please. All right, thank you. Very recently in the news, we hear about flooding, which has been a very common occurrence within our country. We also hear about droughts. The clear link we have between these two is that whenever it floods and you have sanitation systems that are not working, or you don't have enough water being provided, you have a public health problem. So as water providers or as water organizations, we have the clear responsibility to at least know when a flood is coming and think about how to act about it so that we intercept negative health impacts from these kind of events. This is in the news. It happens a lot of times. A lot of times we have our pumping stations already overflooded. The question for me always, how many of our utilities have a link to the meteorological department? How many can think of when the flood is coming and what do we do about it? Then after that, how do we put this in our system of organization such that next year when the flooding comes, we will be ready? These are the kind of things I'm going to talk about in this presentation. And because of such things, we need climate smart solutions. But what are climate smart solutions? In essence, these are solutions that can handle climate impact, so extreme weather events. So that means you don't have disruptions in service provision, can be able to mitigate emissions, and can sustain services. When we talk of climate smart solutions, I think we should not see it as a different thing from sustaining services. It's actually a means to sustaining services. So it's more like killing two birds with one stone, and that's why it's a strategic focus to think about climate smart solutions. So, of course, we have examples of solutions. And here I want to insist that solutions can be technological or they can be infrastructural. And we are very well positioned to provide infrastructural solutions because most of us also come from an engineering discipline. Sometimes we struggle to provide organizational solutions. For instance, at the moment, we have a struggle in, let's say, for example, implementing sanitation levies, for instance, as an intervention. That is clearly an infrastructure. Another struggle that we have is transitioning service provision, for example, in refugee camps, where you already have the infrastructure, but now you want to move it from a development organization to a water utility. So it's often called the humanitarian development nexus. So we have these kind of challenges, sometimes which are not infrastructural, but are actually organizational challenges. And these are the challenges that I want us to think about. And of course, we have example interventions. They come in many forms. They come in examples, nature-based solutions, wastewater reuse, which we are trying to think about also within the sector, but also non-infrastructure solutions, for example, policy updates or policy designs that actually speak towards sustaining services and adapting to climate. But the bottom line is that whichever solution we have, it will always require an organization behind it. But how does this organization operate? And this is really the question. Because if the organization itself is not resilient, then it means even the infrastructure will not be resilient at the end of the day. And a good example was the funding cuts from the US aid. A lot of organizations that clearly relied on US aid for funding had a lot of struggle. And that is when people realized that you actually need a strategy for diversifying funding so that the organization can be resilient to continue with providing whichever services it is providing. So here we go again with organizations. Organizations can be made resilient in two ways. One of them is developing their operational capability. So a good example is a water service provider getting water from a source, treating it and supplying it. That's an operational capability. You need good engineers, you need good competencies. But there's a different type of capability that I want us to think about in organizations within the water sector, which is not often there. And these are the dynamic capabilities. These are the capabilities to identify opportunities or risks and leverage on them to strategically move the organization in a strategic direction. In the business world, this is called competitive advantage, to be better than other organizations. But in the water sectors, I think we need to call it complementarity advantage, because I don't think we are in any competition to provide water. We are more in a complementary sense trying to work together so that we have services for all. So I'm going to focus a bit more on the dynamic capabilities. And I would like maybe one person to tell me what they think when they see a radio. What is the first thing that comes into mind? Maybe just one quick response. What comes into mind? Taarifa ya habari, so the news. Now that is actually very useful. One other volunteer, what comes into mind? Yes? Entertainment. Fantastic. So this radio can deliver different services, but you still live your life while you have the radio on the side. And if you want to get the news, you go and tune into a station. And for those of us I'm not very old, but I'm also not very young. I still found this radio which had an aerial and you had to pull so that you can sense the channels you want to listen to. So that is a tool for sensing which channels exist out there. The radio itself, the electronics, translates the signals and synthesizes them, and the speakers in the radio give you the information which tell you whether today you are going to go to Nairobi or not, in case there's something happening. So what I'm trying to say that this radio has 3 functionalities, and those are the dynamic capabilities that I want utilities to think about and reflect on for strategic reasons. And not only utilities, but all water organizations, including regulators, including unit departments within the ministry, because this is important for alignment purposes. So dynamic capabilities have 3 elements, and the first one is sensing. And here we are talking at the organizational level. We are not talking at the individual level, but rather at the organizational level. So some of the outputs of this will appear in your strategic plan, in your operational plans, in the strategy documents, and how we translate those strategies into operationalization at the organizational level. And these three elements, and I'm going to show how they relate to research and capacity development, is sensing, seizing, and transforming. So sensing is the area. So do you know of the opportunities or risks that exist? Do you know of opportunities for funding, opportunities for partnerships, opportunities for getting new knowledge? As a water organization, do you have this capability? Are you able to have this in the pipeline? As a manager, do you have a person you ask, what is the current news? What do I need to know today, in essence? Because there are many things you can know about in the water sector, but probably only 2 are important for today. So the other point is seizing. Then after you have understood these are opportunities X, let's say opportunities for funding, then how do you mobilize within the organization to leverage on these opportunities? And as we have been talking, a speaker from the African Development Bank said that even project preparation requires resources. So as a utility or as a sector, do we have slack resources or some form of resources that we can use to prepare after we see opportunities? Do we have resources we can mobilize to prepare to take advantage of those opportunities or to avoid risk? And are we able to use this knowledge that we gain from these activities to transform the organization or the water utility strategically in the long term? And these are some of the capabilities that I think we need to really build in our utilities because we have very good operational capabilities. But these dynamic capabilities, I think there is an opportunity to develop them. Now, connecting this to the topic of the day, research plays a key role in sensing. So research, I would be interested if you are a water organization, be it a utility or a regulator, if you have an R&D department, please raise your hand. Okay, so we have 2, 3, 4. 4 out of about 100. So it means our water sector doesn't have sufficient research and development departments, and therefore the sensing bit is very low. And these are the departments that partner with the universities and such and develop research and authority within the sector. So the other question I would ask, for those that have R&D departments, how many are well-functional and well-funded? Please raise your hand if the R&D department is funded and fully functional. Unfortunately, there's no hand up. And that's the sensing part that we really need, so that we know where opportunities are in a broader way. Then we have capacity. Capacity helps us to seize and transform at the organizational level. And that's what we need. There are practical examples of this, of sensing, and this is issues like mapping climate risks, evaluating existing organizational performance, identifying technological innovations and funding, and this requires research collaborations. So partnerships, again, come here. Practical examples of seizing. Are you able to build technical and operational skills? Are you able to strengthen management strategically to move in a direction that operations fits into strategy? And are you able to even mobilize investments and partnerships? Examples of transforming. Are you able to adapt as an organization eventually? Are you resilient? If you face a similar challenge that you faced last year, do you have new information within the organization to actually handle it in a better way? And are you able to even use existing partners to reformulate how you do things or to change how you do things? And these are practical examples in essence. I'll give an example with Nakuru Water as I conclude. And we have a partnership that was actually initiated by Nakuru Water, also with EAWAG and other partners within the sector. And ideally what we do is we try to strengthen research within the utility. And the idea is to take local university students from Kenya and have them work on actual problems in Nakuru Water and give us 5-page feedback on how that problem should be solved. And this is actual research that feeds into the utilities operations. And we already have 2 students that are running within this program, and we are going to put in more. And we always welcome consultations, not consultancies, but consultations from the EAWAG side. That means you can ask a question and you can get an answer, but don't expect me to go and do the groundwork for you as EAWAG because of time and resources. But we always welcome consultations of how can we shape certain programs to be both research and operational kind of problems, and we can get answers for this. Putting it all together, these are the 3 points, and if you didn't get anything from this presentation, I want you to only get these 3 things. Sensing, seizing, transforming. Those 3 things work together. That is the only takeaway home that I want you to take up. Otherwise, thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to have conversations with the team. Thank you very much.
Let's thank him very well. As we keep remembering about the dynamic capabilities, the 3 elements of dynamic capabilities, that is sensing, seizing, and transformation. Please, again, I repeat, remember that when you are leaving this place. Now, our next speaker, as I had earlier mentioned, is Professor Blessings Mberu. I normally find it very difficult to introduce Professor Blessings Mberu because his profile is basically a book chapter. However, I'll try my best, Prof. Blessings Mberu is trained in sociology with specialization in population and demographic studies. He was a trainer at the Population Studies and Training Center and earned a Master of Arts and a PhD degree in sociology from Brown University in 2004 and 2008, respectively. Prior to Brown, he trained in sociology and obtained a Bachelor of Science degree in sociology in 1987 from the then Imo State University, Okigwe, now Abia State University in Nigeria. An MSc degree in sociology from the University of Ibadan, that is still in Nigeria. He joined I've skipped quite a number, so let's go to his current position. He joined the African Population and Health Research Center, APHRC, in 2008 as a postdoc fellow and is currently a senior research scientist and head of Population Dynamics and Urban Program at APHRC. His research covers migration, urbanization, urban health, adolescence, reproductivity, behavior and poverty in sub-Saharan Africa. In the course of his career, Professor Mberu has authored and co-authored, underline authored and co-authored, sharing knowledge, several peer-reviewed scholarly original papers in leading social sciences and public health journals, book chapters, 2 university-referred textbooks in sociology, and technical reports across his areas of research interests and across the different stages of the life course. I think Prof is going to give us a talk and is just an iota of what he does. Prof, welcome.
Hi everyone, good morning. All right. Yeah, so I want to thank Dr. Wainana. He touched on where I wanted to go. One of them is, where is R&D in your operation? Where is research and development? That should be the first thing, you know. But let's go. Yeah, move on, please. Yes, I have, okay, yeah, it's mine to do. I have three goals here, but there may be others. One is to preach, okay? He was asking whether you have. I know you many don't. We've done the work and we saw that that's an area, not just here. We walked across Africa. It's the same thing. You remember that story? If you want to hide anything from an African, put it in a book, okay? And now we have this Gen Z who they want it short, just one sentence. No. Discussions go through the night. I want to prick. You've gone for testing, eh? It draws blood. Blood has to come out for the test to be real. But I also want to prod. Okay? And you saw those academics there trying to define what it is. To spur you, to go, to dig, to nudge, you know, wake you up. But I also want to persuade. Okay? So where do I point? There. Okay. All right, so I'll take it a little in a different dimension. But I want to ask, why should we care? Why should you care about research and capacity building? Of course, what are the research and capacity gaps? And I think Dr. Wainana touched on that. You need to investigate stuff. You know, we have reached a stage where we can no more be shooting in the dark. And then what are the pathways to research capacity strengthening? So let's go on, why should you care? And I look at Africa. Africa, you know, even though when we talk about Africa, you know it's not a country. It's a continent of many countries, about 54. Of course, quality research matters, not only for Africa, but the whole world. You've heard about, oh, this time is for Africa, Africa rising. Okay? But we are really nearly absent in the research marketplace. Nearly. When you go for all these international meetings, I don't know, the camera is set such that with my color, you won't even see my face. You just see some eyes popping, and the rest are really very clear. We are nearly absent. A lot of gap remains in research capacity between Africa and the rest of the world. And I want to underscore in all scientific fields. We're just talking about smart, climate smart. In every area, the problem is the same. We account for less than 1% of world research output. Yet, we are home to at least 12% of the world, of the global population. Currently, it's not yesterday, Sub-Saharan Africa relies on overseas collaboration and visiting academics for its research output. We think this must change. He was talking about USAID. Is USAID not American? Is it yours? Is it Kenyan? Is it Kenyan aid? Serikali's idea locally, but we're always looking we're in the coast. I think since Vasco da Gama, they came here and they took our people there, we have always been looking there for solutions. When would that change? We think it's now. Okay? We are often data collectors, and a lot of professors are here. Is it not very interesting? You're a professor. Let's Google you. One man, I went home and some of our friends, they want to be professors. They were using academic staff union to press for it. And one of my old mentors said to me, your friends want to be professors, and they are doing mandamano for it. Why don't we go to Google and Google your name? And when we see, sometimes we will even see funeral oration you gave somewhere. Then to sift it, we go to Google Scholar. What happens? And that's a very important question. So I'm trying to prick, and I'm going to draw some blood. So bear with me a little. We are data collectors. People come, they do the ideas, and they bring it here. And then you organize students, you collect the data, you got $50,000, and they take the data away. Haven't you seen that many publications in Africa, global publications, when you come to Africa, you keep seeing either dash or NA? Is that correct? Okay. Part of that is that even when we do, most of what is written on Africa are not written by Africans. Or you are they just add your name somewhere as a co-author. Okay. There is very little regional collaboration among African countries. Very little. This must change. We need evidence-based policy and action across both our social governance, whether it is the dynamics my previous speaker is talking about. We need evidence. 50 years after independence, we cannot continue shooting in the dark. Remember that lady from, I think she's from the western part of Kenya. Since I came here, it's every year you look forward to that cry. That is flooding, and she's saying, Serikali, the idea. In recent times, I have not seen her. I don't think the flooding has stopped, but probably she has gotten a better vocation. But what is that telling us? Well, it's like a vicious circle. But let me go here. No country has ever developed on the back of international technical assistance capacities. You said stopped, and I like what Uhuru said. Is it your money? Is it your money? Are you American? This country should be able, your organization should be able to dedicate money to research. When you talk about, you said, is it not government? So what is, you said, equivalent in Kenya? NIH, National Institute for Health, is it not also a US agency? What about our own? Every time we are looking for aid, when should we start giving aid to our neighbors? When should Kenyan helicopter be flying? They say, Kenyan aid. When would that happen? But I'm talking at national level, but it gets down to your own organization. Okay. We are always relying on somebody help us. And somebody said, God does not operate on sympathy. If God operates on sympathy, Africa will be the richest. Because there are so many things to sympathize with us about. No, God operates on principles. You sow, you water, you reap. In that order. So you cannot develop such indigenous capabilities through external research expertise. We must develop it in-house. And we have the capacity. Dr. Warana was telling me he's in Switzerland. I said, if you go abroad, go to any top university. It's amazing. Africans are here. Nobody knows them. Many of your runners, nobody saw them here until they go to Qatar. Qatar, even. Then they become Americans, they become global stars. J.J. Okocha, who knows him? J.J. Okocha. My God, the guy will dribble you and you forget your name. He played so long in Nigeria. Until he went to Germany. And Germany is a hard nut to crack. Okay? Those guys are different. But he broke that place and became a global star. He was in Nigeria. Nobody knew him. But you cannot develop capability. And look at China very well. Our people go and we don't follow up. Some of them are, what are they coming here to do anyway? If he comes here and he's Kikuyu, he will not get job in Moi University. And if he's from that side, he won't get job in JKUAT. Haven't you heard it before? It's not from our tribe. The word is university. You must be relevant universally. That's the only way you can be a university professor. In fact, that's where the word came from. Universe. But we've reduced it to some small issues. No country, especially poor countries, can afford not to invest in research. You cannot afford it, particularly if you are poor. And what you hear is, oh, there is Hakuna Pesa. But Pesa equal as we come to Mombasa. WASPA, the way you mobilize for this, mobilize for research. Can somebody say amen with me? Mobilize for it. I know about WIWAS that used to do shift lifting people out to do water training, either in Israel or so. What happened to that idea? The most important people we now know are those that were lifted from Kenya in the 60s. Am I making sense to you? Wangari Maathai, Obama's dad, you claim Obama, eh? The dad went there and met that Muzungu woman through airlift to go and study. He was the first black person that studied at University of Hawaii and eventually made it to Harvard. Are we still together? Is the blood coming out? No country, especially poor ones. And it was Nehru, some of those that led the Renaissance of India, says, because we are poor, we cannot afford not to do research. We cannot afford. WASPA, Ministry of Water Sanitation, Council of Governors, we cannot afford. Okay, so time is not here. So, but look at growth in funding for research and development, and he mentioned that. It ranged from 10% in India to 23% in South Korea. And those are actually old data. Okay, this is not moving. Okay. This is data from 2002 to 2007 on how much investment is made in research. Did you see Sub-Saharan Africa? That Africa that has something you are seeing is actually Egypt and those northern areas, Algeria and so on. This is where we belong, SSA. Number of researchers per million population. Nigeria, the giant of Africa, not the research. Ghana, Kenya. But did you see South Korea? Are you still with me? Did you see Singapore? Did you see Israel? I mean, just see that. Look at the expenditure in research and development. 0.57% in Sub-Saharan Africa, 4.4% in South Korea, 3.9%. GDP in R&D. That's why Israel is a startup nation. They are always investing. Here we don't. Another way to look at it is how big is Africa. Africa is bigger than the landmass of US, all these countries put together. And look at the figures there. Africa is 30.221 million square kilometers. All these countries put together is 30.102. Are you still with me there? All these countries you are hearing, India is there, China is there. How many billions are there? So they say, oh, Africa is overpopulated. You see, I'm a demographer. We also count numbers. This all is empty. It depends on how you count it. It's the same thing. Now, look at the numbers. China. Let me go here. Between 2050 and 2100, the world population would increase by 1.3 billion, and Africa's population will be 1.8 billion. We have the people. We have the future. We have the future. Let me see. This thing is taking some minutes, you know. This is, I don't know, who have seen this map? Who have seen this map? You see, this thing is hidden in a book. Is that why you've not seen it? But look at it there. US, China, India, Eastern Europe, Italy, Germany, France, Spain. Then there are Netherlands, you know those countries. Some of them are less than Mombasa. It's very interesting. Netherlands, they don't really have a lot of land. But 2023, they exported food products to the tune of $400 billion. Haven't you flown across Kenya? The land is empty. There's nobody here. We all squeezed in Kibera. I don't know what we are getting there. Even with the counties that created new centers of counter attraction, new opportunities. But look at how big Africa is. And land is the first factor of production. In fact, the first promise God made to Abraham is land. The real issue in Middle East, land. And we have it, Nigerians say, in plenty. Let me go quickly, sir. I'm not sure how far I can go. But it is to be able to say, this is why we should care. Another way to look at it, this is, Dr. Wainana, this is investment in research and development. If that is the real map of Africa, you see how giant it is. But here, down here, Africa disappears. Did you notice what I have noticed? Akuna. It is that line. That's Africa for you. It may be worse in your organization. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to move as fast as I can. Next time I want here so that I press and go where I want to go. Another way to look at it, this is scientific papers. Do you see Africa? How will Africa have a place in there if you didn't contribute? Many of you, your stories are going to die. The stories, you know, how you got here. I mean, haven't you noticed when you deal with Muzungu, whenever they finish something like this, they will point to you at the table with books, things recorded, written down. The story of WASPA, who will tell it? From a fledgling organization to where it is today. Eminent chair. Is it me who will now come and do it? Sorry about this, it's taking a little time. Are you able to press for me from there? Yeah, sorry. You see, now I have to cross. This is patents. I hope you know what is patents. Okay? Registration of innovations. And this country is full of it. You know, most of the time we are talking about problems. How did we even survive? That resilience, that capacity to overcome issues. Where are we? Who is telling the story? Who is patenting our ideas? We are totally absent. You can see, almost absent. Okay? This is another area. Okay, this is some disparities in research. Okay? You could see Africa. Look at the last 2 points. I've already made a point about 0.4% global R&D outputs. You see, only 1 in 10,000 African citizens were scientists or engineers, versus 20 to 50 per 10,000 in industrialized countries. In 2011, African continent produced the same amount of scientific publication as the Netherlands. So low funding is the issue. But where do we go from here? These are publications of African universities. The question is, do you have publications? Can we go to your website? Or is it annual report and accounting, how the money was spent? Not what we spent it on, no. And I don't know what accountants do. Because all these are accounts, there are no questions. Again, you can talk about that. Your institution, where is it? I'm sorry, Chair. I don't want to go into this again. This is a summary of how much we spend in research. I don't know. You need to understand the research gaps in your institution. What are the research questions?